Good morning everyone. For today's video, we will talk about the jail and prison in the Philippines. Also, we will tackle the different types of jails, together who manage them and supervise. Also, we will include the 7 penal colonies. We often heard at the jail and prison, but the question is, what is the difference between jail and prison? Jail and prisons are both places for confinement. Yes, pareho po silang lugar na kung saan inilalagay natin ang ating mga inmates. To be specific, jail can be described as place for those inmates under investigation or undergoing trial or serving short-term sentence like 3 years below. Also, jails are managed and supervised by the provincial government and the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology o ang tinatawag nating BJMP. While prison refers to the inmates whose sentence of 3 years above. Kapag sinabing jail, ito ang mga inmates na may sentence na 3 years below. Samantalang ang prison, ito ang mga inmates na may 3 years above. Also, the national prisons or penitentiaries is managed and supervised by the Bureau of Corrections, an agency under the Department of Justice. Jails and prisons are both under the Department of the Interior local government. Now, let's move to the different types of jails in the Philippines. Yes, you heard it right. May iba't ibang uri ng jails in the Philippines. Meron tayong tinatawag na municipal jails, district jails, provincial jails, and city jails. And all of these jails is managed and supervised by the provincial government and the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology o ang BJMP. Kapag sasabi nating municipal jails is one who is sentenced of 1 day to 6 months. Kapag naman sinabi nating provincial are those who is sentenced of 6 months and 1 day to 3 years. And kapag sa city is one who is sentenced of 1 day to 3 years. Now, dalawang beses na nating narinig ang BJMP. Ano nga ba ang BJMP? Okay, BJMP is the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, also known as the Jail Bureau, an agency under the DILG or the Department of Interior Local Government, was created pursuant to Section 60 Republic Act No. 6975-13, which took effect on January 2, 1991. It is mandated to direct, supervise, and control the administration and operation of all district, city, and municipal jails nationwide. Of course, the BJMP has a functions. Una, to formulate policies and guidelines on the administration of all district, city, and municipal jails. 2. Formulate and implement policies for the programs of correction, rehabilitation, and treatment of inmates. Ang ikatlo, plan and program funds for the subsistence allowance of inmates. At ang huli is to conduct research, develop, and implement plans and programs for the improvement of jail services throughout the country. Kaya nga sa BJMP ay may nakalagay na word na penology. It means they study kung ano ang maaaring formation ng ibigay para sa mga inmates. And that's all the different types of jails on our country. Now we will move on to the 7 penal colonies o ang mga tinatawag nating mga prison. The 7 penal colonies under the Bureau of Corrections are the following: the New Bilibid Prison in Muntinlupa, the Correctional Institution for Women o ang tinatawag nating CIW in Mandaluyong City, Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm in Puerto Princesa City, Palawan, Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm in Occidental Mindoro, San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm in Zamboanga City, Leyte Regional Prison in Abuyog, Leyte, and Davao Prison and Penal Farm in Panabo, Davao Province. These 7 penal colonies has their own history, kung kailan ito nagumpisa, kung paano ito nabuo, kung sino ang mga taong na-involved dito at ano ang mga products nila. Let's move on to the New Bilibid Prison. This was project to expand the area of the old Bilibid Prison. The inmates' population prompted the government to plan and develop a new site for the National Penitentiary. This was project to transfer the old Bilibid prison to a new site. The Commonwealth Act No. 67 was enacted, appropriating 1 million pesos for the construction of a new national prison in Muntinlupa. On November 15, 1940, all inmates of the old Bilibid prison in Manila were transferred to a new site. The new institution had a capacity of 3,000 prisoners and it was officially named the New Bilibid Prison on January 22, 1941, from Old Bilibid to New Bilibid Prison. The prison reservation had an area of 587 hectares. The prison's compound proper had an area of 300 by 300 meters or a total of 9 hectares. It was surrounded by 3 layers of barbed wire. For correctional institution for women, before a separate building was constructed for women prisoners, all female convicts were confined at the Old Bilibid Prison on Azgaraga St. Manila. The male prisoners were confined in dormitories near the women's quarter. Because of this condition, vocational activities of the women prisoner were limited to embroidery. When they become ill, the women were confined in a separate building which served as a hospital with nurses and prison physician. When women prisoners needed surgery, they were operated on the Bilibid prison. After the operation, they were transferred to the infirmary for their recovery. After a series of negotiations started by Prison Director Ramon Victorio, the Philippine legislature passed Republic Act No. 3579 in November 1929. It authorized the transfer of all women inmates to a building in a welfare bill at Mandaluyong, Rizal, and appropriate 60,000. On February 14, 1931, the women prisoners were transferred from the Old Bilibid prison to the building especially constructed for them. It's all named Women Prisons that was changed to Correctional Institution for Women o ang CIW. It's occupied 18 hectares. The original structure was one-story building which housed the office, the brigade's mess hall, kitchen, chapel, infirmary, bathrooms, and employees' restrooms. The prisoners' vocational activities were expanded to include poultry and piggery as well as cultivation of crops, flowers, and fruits. Okay, let's move on naman sa Iwahig Penal Colony. This was established naman during the American occupation, but during the Spanish regime, the Puerto Princesa was designated as a place where offenders sentenced to banishment were exiled. The institution had for its first superintendent Lieutenant George Walt. Governor Luke Wright authorized the establishment of a penal colony in the province of Palawan on November 16, 1904. This penal settlement, which originally comprised more than 8 hectares. Through the department efforts, the Philippine Commission of the United States government passed Act No. 1723 in 1907, classifying the settlement as a penal institution. A merit system was devised for the prisoners and vocational activities were offered. These included farming, fishing, forestry, carpentry, and hospital paramedical work. Prisoners could choose the vocational activities they wanted. Iwahig is subdivided into 4 zones or districts. Central Subcolony with an area of 14,700 hectares, Santa Lucia with 9,685 hectares, Montible with 8,000 hectares, and Inagawan with 13,000 hectares. For the Sablayan Prison and Penal, Sablayan Penal Colony is located in Occidental Mindoro and relatively new. Established on September 26, 1954 by virtue of Presidential Proclamation No. 72. The penal colony has a total land area of approximately 16,190 hectares. Prison's records show that the first colonists and employees arrived in Sablayan on January 15, 1955. Since then, several buildings have been constructed, including the colonists, dormitories, employee quarters, guardhouse, schoolhouse, chapel, recreation hall, and post exchange. Three sub-colonies were later organized. One is reservation, which this day remains part of a protected rainforest. Another is in the coastal area. The third was used by the national government as a relocation site for refugees from the eruption of Mount Pinatubo eruption in 1991. For the San Ramon Prison Penal Farm, San Ramon Prison was established in southern Zamboanga on August 21, 1870, through a royal decree promulgated in 1869, established during the tenure of Governor General Ramon Blanco, whose patron saint the prison was named after. The facility was originally established for persons convicted of political crimes. Considered the oldest penal facility in the country, prisoners in San Ramon were required to do agricultural work. During the Spanish-American War in 1898, the prisoners in San Ramon were hastily released and the building destroyed. In 1907, the American administration re-established the prison farm. In 1912, General John Pershing, Chief Executive of the Department of Mindanao and Sulu, classified the institution as prison and penal colony, and therein confined people sentenced by the courts under his jurisdiction. Under Pershing's supervision, several buildings with a capacity for 600 prisoners were constructed. After several years, the colony became practically self-supporting with 75,000 coconut trees, and also rice, corn, papaya, and other crops were also cultivated. On November 1, 1905, Reorganization Act No. 1407 was approved, creating the Bureau of Prison under the Department of Commerce and Police, integrating the old Bilibid Prison, San Ramon Penal Colony, and Iwahig Penal. The Philippine Coconut Authority took over management of the coconut farm from San Ramon. In 1995, Congresswoman Maria Clara Lobregat proposed the transfer of San Ramon Prison to Bonggao Town in the mountainous area of Zamboanga to give way to Special Economic Zone. For the Leyte Regional Prison, situated in Abuyog, Southern Leyte, was established a year after the declaration of martial law in 1972 by the virtue of Presidential Decree No. 28. The Leyte Regional Prison has an inmate capacity of 500. It follows the same agricultural forms as the main correctional program in addition to some rehabilitation activities. The prison admits convicted offenders from Region 6 and from the National Penitentiary in Muntinlupa. For our last penal farm, we have the Davao Penal Colony. The Davao Penal Colony is the first penal settlement founded and organized under the Filipino administration. The settlement, which originally had an area of approximately 30,000 hectares in the district of Panabo and Tagum, Davao del Norte, was formally established on January 21, 1932 by the Virtue Act of No. 3732. This act authorized the Government General to lease or sell the lands, buildings, and improvements in San Ramon Prison and Iwahig Penal Colony. It also granted authority to the Secretary of Justice to establish a new prison and penal colony as suitable public land. A budget of $500,000 was allocated. Governor Dwight Davis signed Proclamation No. 414 on October 7, 1931, which reserved a site for the penal colony in Davao Province in Mindanao. The site offered ideal condition for agricultural activities. On December 20, 1941, the Japanese Imperial Force attacked Davao, and the colony was among establishments taken over by the invading army. The entire settlement was thrown into confusion, and a great number of prisoners escaped. Normal operations were inevitably disturbed. November 8, 1942, a representative of the director of prison transferred the colony and its property to the Japanese authorities. The remaining colony employed their families, and the inmates evacuated to Iwahig, where they organized the Davao Penal Colony.